Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and in this episode, I'm going to do a lead up into the Andor series that is all about one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, Cassian Andor. Now, before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. And we look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. Finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is a very special episode of Force Ghost Conversations, if you follow me. This is an episode that we typically do in lead up to a big series or movie, what have you, TV series, animated, live action. We usually do like a prefacing lead up episode, focusing primarily on the main character or characters, what have you. We've done it for Boba Fett. We've done it for Obi-Wan. And of course, we're going to do it now for Cassian Andor in anticipation of Andor, which has come out today on Disney+. 3 episodes of the highly anticipated series are now available on Disney+. And it's been a journey to this point in time. I remember the day that this series was announced via the Star Wars YouTube page. They did that awooga awooga breaking news alert. Cassian Andor led Disney Plus series coming soon, and the day is finally here. There were, concerns that it wasn't happening. There's been flip-flops of who's been the show-running producer for this. Now that all the pieces have fallen into place, it is time to finally get excited and to enjoy all that is Andor. It's going to be a series that is going to be, I think it will be revolutionary for Star Wars, for Lucasfilm in general, in terms of taking risks and storytelling wise. And I think it will give them a lot of confidence moving forward. I've heard nothing but positivity from those that have been fortunate to have seen either the first 3 or 4 episodes of Andor. I know they did a premiere recently in Hollywood at the cinema that Disney owns there. What's that called again? That is the... Ooh, what is that? Sorry, let me pull it up there. Disney-owned cinema. That is the El Capitan. Yes, of course. Sorry there, folks. I usually have that one on the top of my head there, but I drew a blank on that one. Yes, the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. They had the premiere for Andor, which is quite exciting. And kudos to those that got to attend. I loved seeing the red carpet pictures and all that stuff. That's an amazing experience for sure, I imagine. And we're here. We're finally in Andor season. We're in the season of Andor. And it's going to take us all the way into Tales of the Jedi. It's going to take us into Willow. And then from there on, the baton will be dropped off to Willow. And then it will go to Bad Batch. And that baton will continue all its way to Mandalorian Season 3, Ahsoka, and beyond. Who knows what's next after that? Skeleton Crew, probably. Very excited for all of it. Can't wait. Star Wars is definitely something that we're not in short supply of these days. Well, in this typical episode, of course, let me preface this. There's not going to be a Cloud City Gossip segment here. That is the big news of the day, is that there's 3 new episodes of Andor, and Andor will be releasing each Wednesday henceforth until we get to all 12 episodes of Season 1. So go check that on Disney Plus if you haven't. We're going to talk about it on Force Ghost Conversation. So there's going to be a couple of multiple episode a weeks, if you will, in the next couple of weeks. I keep saying weeks, so I'm going to keep going with that. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride, I can imagine, and we're gonna do each episode individually, as we typically do here. It deserves its own episode. Let me tell you what. So we're gonna break it all down each and every week here at Voice Coast Conversations, and just come along for the ride. Be sure to follow us on all of our social channels and continue the conversation with us. We'd love to chat with you about all things Andor. So, in this general episode, I'm going to share my thoughts about the character. We're going to do a little bit of looks into what's on the Star Wars databank. And we're going to look in our trusty Star Wars character encyclopedia, the updated and expanded edition, and see what information there is to glean about this character moving into the series. So, I guess we'll start with my personal recollections of Andor. And I think you got to go to the beginning, which is the lead up to Rogue One again. I remember seeing the pictures of Cassian Andor and knowing that he was a part, of course, this rebel spy group that would eventually comprise what they call Rogue One, which steals the Death Star plans. And I believe the supporting promotional material described him as this spy who is steadfastly a supporter of the rebellion and has to kind of help Jyn Erso on her journey to get to that point as well. So Cassian to me almost represented a person that is like the anti-Han in a way, right? They think they are both similar people that are distrusting of the world in various reasons, but Han takes his time to get to that point where he's trusting of the rebellion and gives himself up to the cause, whereas it seemed apparently that Cassian was the opposite of that. Like he's been in the fight since he's 6 years old. He saw the destruction that the Empire did, and he decided to do something about it. Right? I think he even says lines similar to that in Rogue One. Whereas I think what we've learned from the series so far is that wasn't necessarily the case. At least from the trailers that have been out there, right? He might have been doing stuff to dismantle the Empire here and there, or maybe a little bit similar to what the Ghost Crew and Rebels is doing at this time, right? Stealing from the Empire and giving it to poor people. Maybe it's along those lines, but it's not necessarily giving himself up to this grand cause that is the rebellion yet. I think that's pretty evident from the trailers thus far, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's just kind of what I'm discerning from those materials thus far. But I was very proud, I think that's the appropriate word, of Cassian in Rogue One, right? We as fans, have the benefit when it's a prequel of knowing what happens later, right? We all have this affiliation with the rebellion. We like the rebellion. We root for the underdogs. We want them to defeat the Empire. We want this group to steal these Death Star plans. And the fact that he's the one that's kind of quarterbacking this team in many ways, being a moral leader for them, hurting them through the that is which is the rebellion, is great. And he's got this wonderful droid beside him, K2SO, and they're both this ragtag group of spies basically that help save the day and lead us to this great journey that is the original trilogy. I also love the look of Cassian Andor, right? He's got that like basically this jacket that is kind of similar to what Han wears on Hoth in the I believe the Hoth Han jacket that is in The Empire Strikes Back, which I think he wears in the Jedha sequences as well as on Edu. Now, something that I've always appreciated about Cassian too is that he seemed like he was the one on the ground, like doing the stuff for the rebellion that we never really got to see up until this point, right? Of course, there were going to be spies, people doing some potentially shady things in order to get information, right? We always see the classic good guys doing the right thing and stuff like that. But that's not necessarily the nuance of what it is to run a pseudo military force, if you will, that is the rebellion. There's always going to be people behind the scenes, kind of pulling the strings together. And sometimes that means doing things that aren't necessarily the most morally acceptable ways of doing that. And I think Cassian realized that he believed in the cause so much that he was willing to do stuff like that for the rebellion, right? Spies, saboteurs, assassins. We've all done things for the rebellion, the things that we're not necessarily proud of. And there's something heroic in a way about being willing to take up that, in my opinion. I don't know. It's just like when you believe in the cause that much, and it's a cause that generally that we as an audience believe in. It's just interesting to think of it from that point of view. Like he would definitely be considered a hero, one of those people. Like if in our own military, if someone were to do something like that, I think they'd almost be heroified, if you will, or I guess you know, given that type of I guess specialized honor, I guess, in a way. They almost be looked at as heroes, right? People that did things that they needed to do in order for us to have the freedoms and liberties that we have, right? I guess that would be kind of a comparable comparison here, but they would see it as we've done these terrible things, right? um, so maybe I don't think he would necessarily take those accolades there, but there's something interesting about that dichotomy when you think about it in the long run there. So Cassian has always kind of represented this like steadfast belief the in the rebellion, what the rebellion is, and necessarily doing what needs to be done in order to make sure the rebellion gets its goals done. Almost kind of similar in a vein to what Saw Gerrera is doing, but just definitely not in the war criminal sense that they would define it him as. The rebellion would later, cast him out for his atrocities, if you will, in the galaxy. So that's kind of where I'm at with Cassian here. Of course, he has these wonderful lines in Rogue One that we'll discuss in a second here. They're literally littered all over um, the Star Wars databank entry for Cassian Andor. So let's take a look at this here. Actually, let's go right into it. So I'm just going to read the databank entry for Cassian Andor here. He's an accomplished Alliance intelligence officer with combat field experience. Captain Cassian Andor commands respect from his rebel troops with his ability to keep a cool head under fire and complete his missions with minimal resources. I definitely think that that last line is very impactful there. And of course, the picture that accompanies it here is this wonderful jacket that I was talking about from earlier, right? It's that fake fur that's right behind his head there. It really stands out for me. And also, I don't know why, but maybe it's because he wore it on a desert planet that it seems to be look. I mean, Jeddah looks very hot. I don't think anyone would argue with that one. It looks like it's a pretty uncomfortable planet at times. And the fact that he's wearing a jacket there with these big gloves, definitely be sweating underneath that. I can almost assure you. So it's kind of ironic that he said that he's probably sweating buckets with that outfit on. Yet he's keeping a cool head under fire and completes his missions with minimal resources. Right? I think of on the Ring of Kafrene there with the Tivik, where he gets the information he needs and he shoots him down, so he's able to escape, and the information doesn't get into the hands of the Empire that he was seeking to discern there. He definitely, in that moment, had to make a choice that is morally definitely not always 100% in the green, if you will. But he made the choice already. He knew he needed to do in order to get the job done that he needed to. He kept a cool head under fire, and he was just a team of one at that point, and he's sometimes just a team of two with K2. And I think too about getting out of Jeddah too, right? He didn't have the coordinates there when the city is literally blowing up around him. There is no horizon, as K2 would say. And he said, and even they're trying to get out on the U-wing, and he has to punch in those hyperspace coordinates, and he shoots off into the distance. He says, "I'll make them for you. I'll make those calculations for hyperspace jump aren't complete. Well, I'll make them for you." And he hits the pedal to the metal. Right, that's something that very much Han would do. Never tell me the odds. Shoot, right off. So as of this point, he's only appeared in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And of course, there's the Rogue One novelization as well, and subsequent comic book that you can also find him in. His weapon is the Blast Tech A280 CFE version, which also has that really neat like sniper configuration. Reminds me a little bit of an M16 there, modified, if you will, if you look at it from the real life perspective. So it has this lived-in experience of the Star Wars galaxy. So that's really the extent of the databank entry, is just that little bit there. But you get on this site a great deal of quotes that Cassian Andor provides. And these are some of the most powerful ones that he's got here. I'm going to conclude with the most powerful one, actually, I would say. So he's going to say, I'm beginning to have the Force and I have different priorities, right? When he's questioning whether he's a part of this, why he's a part of this rebellion. Is he actually making a difference in this world? Is he going to do things the right way? I think he has that's internal turmoil in him. Like, he obviously knows that everything I've done it for the rebellion, right? That's going to be the next quote here. Everything I did it for the rebellion, right? Saboteurs, assassins, spies, we've all done things. And we know we want to, I know it's a suicide mission probably, but I believe in what we do here. So this is the right thing, and I'm going to do what is right because it is right. But before that, when he's stuck in this cage, right, and Chirrut says, I believe everyone has, your cages are a metaphorical thing too in this regard, where I believe that the cage that you hold is more of a, one within your mind, right? You're trapping yourself into certain areas and belief systems, and you're not expanding yourself into what you can possibly achieve when you work together as a team. Because he's been so much with working with minimal resources, working by himself, doing what he needed to do instead of becoming a part of a team, something greater. He's already a part of something greater, of course. The rebellion is that, but like really putting himself, doing what needs to be done again for the end result, which is getting those Death Star plans. Like, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. But he has the ultimate line that is really the thread of Rogue One, or at least he says it to Jyn, and that really gets the ball rolling with things, which is rebellions are built on hope. At the end of the day, that's what it is. You're going to do this off of hope, just based off of hope. Rebellions are built on hope. Yeah, rebellions are built on hope. That's a very powerful line. It may be the best quote of all of Rogue One, actually. It's something that we can live with, to take into the real world, right? If you're feeling oppressed, or those in certain situations where they don't see a way out, right? Have hope. Have hope. You need something. You need that foundation. That's what a rebellion is built on. That's the foundation of what any type of uprising is going to be. It's going to be through hope, through shared experience, through believing in our friends, through taking on the initiative. And that's really the leadership that Cassian embodies. He's there to set a plan. He does what he needs to do. And then he has that moral conscience where at the end of the day that finally pokes through, where he doesn't kill Galen Erso. He disobeys those orders, right? And that's something he has to live with. Interesting. There's a lot of nuance to Cassian Andor that I think is going to be explored a lot more detail in the series coming up. So that's a databank entry, I should say, not database. So over here I have our trusty Star Wars Character Encyclopedia Updated and Expanded Edition, which is written by a lot of friends of the show. Simon B. Croft, Elizabeth Dowsett, Pablo Hidalgo, Amy Raquel, and of course Dan Zare from Coffee with Kenobi. Got it pulled up to the Cassian Andor page right here, just so we can discern some more details about Cassian. It says Cassian Andor, Rebel Intelligence Agent. Captain Cassian Andor, I don't want to lose his title there, it's very important, lives and breathes the Rebel Alliance. Again, that's what we've talked about. I like to think that he's one of the most steadfast supporters of the rebellion. His role in military intelligence often puts him on the front line, gathering snippets of information that could be used against the Empire, aka what he did with Tivik, I should say, sorry. And learning that there is some type of big kyber crystal weapon that the Empire is putting together. He goes by many names and blends into a crowd, which is, I think, maybe an interesting tidbit there, that we'll see the spy aspect of Cassian a bit more. We get to see more of the fighter and almost diplomat, if you will, when he's trying to engage with the Saw Gerrera's partisans group. But now we're actually going to see one-on-one what does he do in order to get into those strongholds that are of the Empire, to steal items from them, to steal information from them. That's going to be the crux of what Andor is as a show. So apparently his homeworld is Fest, Fest. He's about 5'10", so I'm a little taller than him. That's pretty cool. Of course, there, as we mentioned before, there's the Blastech A280 CFE weapon. He's got a Corellian-style field jacket, which is his little like dungarees that he wears at the beginning of the film. And Cassian Jaren Andor, apparently he has a middle name, Jaren, if you will. Cassian Jaren Andor has been caught up in violence since he was 6 years old, it says later in this entry. His traumatic experiences and aimless early years have focused his determination to disrupt the Empire. He fights it with whatever minor acts of rebellion he can, hoping that it will all one day amount to a greater effect, which it eventually does, right? They're able to steal the Death Star plans. It all goes to something, which is providing that spark, that new hope for the galaxy that eventually comes to fruition in the events of Star Wars Episode 4, right? Do you think anyone's looking up there in the sky? I think they've heard the transmission, they've received its transmissions, and I believe that there's a princess out there. I believe there's a scoundrel in the galaxy out there, and I believe that there's a farm boy that is looking out to twin sons, looking for something greater too, that's going to take up that mantle in the vein of their sacrifice. So Cassian is also able to call on a network of informants across the galaxy for intelligence vital to the rebel cause. Again, there's a picture there of him with Tivik. So I think maybe you will see a bit of that spy network coming together in the Andor series, or at least creating some list of contacts. Maybe in season 2 that'll be more prevalent. Maybe season 1 is probably just him becoming a part of the rebellion and what that all entails. So that's probably more of a season 2 story bit. But it's good to know that obviously he's got this spy network, right? It's kind of similar to like the Culpeper spy ring that if you look at the real history, right, in the United States here, where it was George Washington spy ring in the New York Manhattan area. Going rogue is another kind of side part here on this character encyclopedia entry, which says for an intelligence officer, there's no greater prize than the files of the Death Star. Stealing them from under the Empire's nose means going on a suicide mission against orders, but the data gets through. Mission complete. And that's really all the details that are listed in the character encyclopedia. I'm sure within the next updated and expanded edition, they will add a whole lot more about Cassian Andor, as we know a lot more about his backstory, about his feelings towards certain events in history to the Star Wars galaxy, and all that. But yeah, he really does complete the ultimate spy mission when you think about it. At the end of the day, he's literally listed as a spies in the crawl for Episode 4, A New Hope, which if you're a spy and that's kind of your job, I feel like that's the greatest honor, is like that notion that history writes it as such, right? If you look at Star Wars almost as a historical document, which I think I do it from time to time, right? Those crawls are almost like a written historical text, if you will. So the fact that he's labeled a spy and this great for their first victory of open war against the Galactic Empire, I think that's probably the greatest victory at the end of the day. Especially when you know it's a suicide mission and you're probably not coming back, and you're able to do the impossible, literally, right? That's the hope that the rebellions are built on at the end of the day. So those are all really my thoughts on Cassian Andor as we head into this wonderful season that's going to be the Andor series. 3 episodes just came out today, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you're enjoying them. I know I'm certainly can't wait to get home from work and from grad school class to check it out myself. But I did want to have this wonderful episode to just kind of celebrate the character beforehand, because after we have this first episode, we'll probably never look at this character the same again. We'll have new context to his backstory, to how his feelings are towards certain characters and instances, what brought him into the rebellion. Everything that we know about this character could theoretically be enhanced or changed or slightly in certain ways, right? So we're going to have a whole fresh new look on the character as we get into the coming weeks of Andor here, which is so exciting. I always love learning more about these characters and learning what the the myths that we can take away from Star Wars as we try to become good people in our own lives and use Star Wars as that realm where we learn about different themes and what we can take away from that to implement within our daily beings. So, with that, everybody, that is all that I had for today's episode. What do you think about Captain Cassian Andor? Captain Cassian Jaren Andor. Apparently, he has a middle name. So, let us know on our social media channels. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I think I said Facebook, TikTok, all the places. Be sure to check us out there. We love to continue the conversation with you all. And with that, let's also continue the conversation about Andor. Our first episode will be this Sunday, our discussion on episode 1 of Andor, with subsequent episodes taking place until we get caught up. And with that, just enjoy Andor season, everybody. Can't wait to discuss with you all over social media channels and also here on the podcast. So with that, everybody, I hope you have a great week. Enjoy Andor. May the Force be with you.